Matcha lattes are the hottest drink of the year, but you don't need to drive to a cafe to get them. You can make delicious matcha lattes at home using a few basic ingredients, and in this video, we're going to show you how. We'll walk you through the list of ingredients, steps, and tips to make the perfect matcha latte, both hot and iced. A personal pet peeve of mine is when the matcha latte is too watered down, and we'll show you what you can do to fix that. This video is an excerpt from our book Matcha Masterclass, a 140-page guide on all things matcha. If you want to learn about how matcha is made, the history of matcha, and the health benefits of matcha, you can get the full guide when you sign up using the link below. So matcha lattes can be a fun way to get started into the world of matcha. You can flavor them based on your personal preference, and the added sweetness makes for an easier introduction into the more exotic flavor profiles of matcha. So let's talk about the ingredients. Other than the matcha powder, which you can easily find on our website, you should have everything you need at home already. First, matcha powder. Matcha powder is the key ingredient in making an iced matcha latte, but use it sparingly. You don't want to drink much more than 2 teaspoons in a latte, or you'll get a heavy dose of caffeine. Also, you don't need to use expensive matcha powder if you're making a latte, but it still should come from a reputable source. If you want to get the perfect matcha powder for your daily latte, you can try this one from Mr. Masuda in Shizuoka. The latte grade matcha comes from later tea harvests, so it's more affordable, but it still has a great color and a strong flavor that works perfectly with milk. Second, milk. Milk is used to create the creamy texture of the iced matcha latte. Any type of milk can be used, but we really recommend going for a plant-based milk like oat milk, soy milk, almond milk, or coconut milk. This will improve the flavor and make it so that you can still get the health benefits of the matcha. Third, sweetener. A sweetener is used to balance out the bitterness of the matcha powder. Common sweeteners include honey, agave, maple syrup, or simple syrup. You can experiment with different types of sweetener to see which works best in your matcha latte. Fourth, ice. Ice is added to create a refreshing and chilled drink. It's important to use enough ice to keep the drink cold, but not too much that you dilute the flavor. If you really want to take your iced matcha latte to the next level, you can make Matcha Ice Cubes by freezing matcha in an ice cube tray. When these ice cubes melt, they won't dilute the flavor of your drink. They'll just add more matcha to your latte. Of course, if you're making a warm matcha latte, you won't need any ice cubes. There are also several optional add-ins that can be used to enhance the flavor of the iced matcha latte. For example, vanilla extract can add a subtle sweetness and depth of flavor. Whipped cream can add a nice texture and extra sweetness. A sprinkle of cinnamon can add warmth and spice, and some people like to add fruits such as strawberries or blueberries to add a fruity twist to the drink. An easy way to do this is by adding a little bit of fruit jam to the bottom of the drink and then stirring it in. This is the part where you can really make the recipe your own and experiment with different combinations. So now that you have all the ingredients for your matcha latte, it's time to combine them all together. All you need to do is follow these steps and you will soon have the ultimate iced matcha latte or warm matcha latte. Step 1. Preparing the matcha powder. In a small bowl or cup, sift 1 to 2 teaspoons of matcha powder to ensure that there's no clumps. Next, you can add in 1 to 2 tablespoons of hot water and then mix the matcha powder until it forms a smooth paste. For the matcha lattes, we're going to add as little water as possible because we're also going to be adding milk later on. We want to really reduce the amount of water that we add to the lattes so it doesn't taste diluted. Step 2. Pouring in the milk. Now you can pour the milk into the matcha paste and mix it up until it's thoroughly combined. If you're making a warm matcha latte, you can heat the milk ahead of time and put it in hot. Step 3. Combining everything. Now that you have the matcha and milk well mixed together, you can pour it into a cup or glass filled with ice or matcha ice cubes. If you're making a warm matcha latte, instead of pouring it into a cup filled with ice, simply pour the heated matcha into a mug. If you want to make sure that your warm matcha latte stays warm, you can heat the mug ahead of time. Just pour in some hot water, leave it in for about a minute, and then pour it out before pouring the matcha into it. Step 4. Adding the sweetener. Now you can add in the sweetener to taste, stirring it in until it's fully dissolved. Use more or less sweetener depending on what you prefer. Step 5. Optional add-ins. If you want, now is the opportunity to add the additional add-ins or garnish. In the next section, we'll give you some tips on how to improve the presentation and taste of your iced matcha latte. But first, let's go through some tips for achieving the perfect consistency and flavor. First, make sure that you mix everything well so there's an even consistency and no clumps. Next, play around with the amounts of matcha powder and sweetener that you use, as you may find that you prefer the iced matcha latte to be stronger or sweeter. Also, for an even smoother consistency, you can strain the matcha as you're pouring it into the glass. Finally, experiment with different types of milk to find the one that best complements the matcha flavor. Serving and presenting your iced matcha latte. How you serve your iced matcha latte can be almost as important as how you make it. This is where you can really get creative and make an iced matcha latte just like your favorite barista. Top your iced matcha latte with a dollop of whipped cream and sprinkle some matcha powder on top for an extra touch of indulgence. What type of glass you serve your matcha in can also make a difference, particularly to the person drinking it. We like to use a nice tall glass or mason jar to really showcase the color and layers of the drink. Finally, we have garnish. You can add a fresh mint leaf or a slice of fruit to the drink for a finishing touch. Make sure whatever you use pairs well with the flavor of the matcha, something sweet and neutral, without too much sourness. If you want to get the perfect matcha for lattes, you can find it on our website, neoteas.com. After traveling around Japan for the past few years, we met with dozens of different farmers and sampled hundreds of different matcha teas. This one, from Mr. Masuda in Shizuoka, works perfectly in matcha lattes, and it's very affordable. The important thing, even with matcha lattes, is that you get matcha from a pesticide-free source. When you drink matcha, you're consuming the entire leaf, along with everything that's been added to it. This is why all of our matcha teas are grown without pesticides or chemicals, and if you want to try them, you can find them on our website, neoteas.com. In the next episode, we're going to show you how to make matcha without a whisk. But if you don't want to wait that long, you can get the full book for free when you sign up using the link below. Until then, we'll see you next time.